I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I
I
am
am
California
California
of
of
the
the
past.
past.
My name is Walter S. Gates. I am one of the sons of Solomon Gates, one of the early residents of what is now the beautiful Pomona Valley. One time, some years ago, before my old friend Scott Romick of Laverne, a man who lived to be almost 100 years of age, told me that some of the trees, eucalyptus trees growing in Ganesha Park, were propagated by my father in his nursery. Well, anyhow, I'm getting a little bit ahead of my story. We'll go back to 1872. The people in this community decided that this village, as they called it, was growing quite rapidly, and it would need a name. Therefore, they had a contest for the one who would select the appropriate name for this booming village. And so my father, among other people, decided that he wanted a name, that he would try to select a name, one that would be appropriate for such a wonderful community. Many people in those days, so my father once told me when I was a little boy, that suggested names, fancy names, descriptive more or less of a growing community and all of that. But my father was quite desirous of wanting something really worthwhile for such a progressive community, such a beautiful place. Because as I said previously, he saw the opportunity that lay here in this great valley. So one night, coming home, he decided that he would try to select a name. And he couldn't hardly think of an appropriate name. So he said, well, I wish I could find something really worthwhile for this community. And so he happened to think, this is the land of flowers and fruit trees and so on. Oh, he said, I think I have the name. He went into the house there and lit his old kerosene lamp and sat down by his table, took out some writing material and wrote a name out there that he thought would be appropriate for this community, not having much faith or confidence in the fact that the name might be chosen. Then the next day, after a hard day's work at his nursery, he came home and left this sealed envelope with one of the officers of the Development Association who had advertised a contest for the one who would select the name. The prize to be given was a lot. So my father, not being certain as to whether he'd have this name chosen or not, left it with this man. Well, several weeks later, the head of the organization, one of the officers, called a meeting of the community, and they went to the community place, and the presiding officer, after transacting some of the other business, said that our judges have now selected a name for this growing community. And the crowd yelled, let's have the name, what is it, and so on. Of course, in those days, the audience was composed mostly of men. Women were not supposed to go to public meetings. And then a few minutes later, this man, the presiding officer, whose name I do not remember, my father's often told this story, but I do not recall the name of the presiding officer. Anyhow, he drew forth, opened this envelope and drew forth a slip of yellow paper. And upon this, he says, this name that we are going to select for our community has been chosen by our nurseman, Solomon Gates. And so he picked the paper out, and it had on it the word Pomona, P-O-M-O-N-A. And then the presiding officer went on to explain that it was derived from the Latin word pomum, P-O-M-U-M, meaning goddess of fruit. And so the crowd rushed over to my father, Solomon Gates, and congratulated him upon picking such a wonderful name for such a fine community. They told him, many of the people there assembled, that it was quite symbolic of this community. It was going to be a land of fruit and flowers. So my father felt quite proud that he could, in a small way, contribute to the name of this new valley, this new city that was to be founded. So that is how Pomona secured her name.